All right, Eastern Bloc is back. It's going to be a year-long review of the Airforce Texan 308 modified. Now, something just happened with this gun. I'm going to tell you, I'm not bragging or anything, but this gun won the third place in the EBR 2019 for the modified or open big bore competition. So I figured I better put some information out on this gun. Tell people how freaking awesome it is. So rather than ending the video at 100 yards like most people do, I'm just going to start this video off and shoot a coyote in the head at 100 yards, and then hopefully that'll grab everybody's attention and we can start the video off from there. All right, Airforce Texan, 100 yards, headshot coyote in wind. I'll try this again. This camera is better quality, but it can never keep focus. It's much better quality than my last one, but I just can't keep it in focus. So I just shot a 5-shot group, all landed in the coyote's head. 4 out of the 5 were all touching. So I'm going to refire just this target here. Hopefully it'll work. 1. Okay. Oh no, I'm just gonna fire in the body. Since I already did the head, I'm gonna fire straight into the heart. A little bit of wind. 1. This won't work. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5, all on top of each other. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. My camera just is better quality, but it just doesn't work. So I'm almost thinking about going back to my old camera, just so I can not deal with these blurry images. So the first 5 shots went blurry every time. Once I started shooting, and it was worthless footage. So 4 of the 5 shots here, 1 shot up to the right. Still amazing. So I restarted, took 6 more shots, 1 during a gust of wind, just to see where the wind would take it from here to here. And then I shot 5 shots directly into the coyote's heart at 100 yards. Now, I tested this 5 different guns to pick the best coyote gun. I think it was AE 825, AE 537, Huben 25, and the Benjamin Bulldog / Pitbull high-powered 357 big bore. And this gun absolutely smoked all of them. All those other guns I could mostly aim for the heart or lung shot, and this gun is only heart or head at 100 yards. Amazing. Now let's get into this and start the review. All right, let's think back to when I started coyote hunting. I started with an Ataman regulated big bore 357 that shot pellets and slugs semi okay, not even good, but semi okay. And I sometimes had shots on coyote that were 170 yards that didn't come any closer, and then sometimes they ran up on me really close range. So I took that all in consideration. I needed a long range gun and a gun that could, if I needed to, grab it and do a close range shot. So I went with the Texan SS, which is quite a bit smaller, but it's still big and hard to deal with. but it was quite a bit smaller than the full-size Texan. As you can see, it's long, but it's not abnormally, horribly, pathetically long like the other Texans. So that's why I bought that one. And for caliber wise, I was really drawn between 257 and 308. And I decided on 308 because simply I could not find a 257 in back then that was an SS. So I went with 308, and after watching videos upon videos and researching, I decided to pull the trigger on a used one. And this gun did not come like this. I actually put a 1.1 liter bottle, which is over twice the size of the normal bottle. It's a carbon fiber one. That I did that because I wanted a flat shot curve. I didn't want to think about what shot I was in, what fill pressure, how much it was going to drop at what distance, and I didn't want to do any of that. So my goal was to have 5 regulated like shots where I can count on those 5 shots and have a range of pressures where I could just shoot and know that shot is going to go the exact same speed every time. And that's why I upgraded this bottle. And then I upgraded the gauge because just you have to. If you're gonna, you have to know exactly what the fill pressure is. And those gauges that come with this gun were just, I'm just gonna say it, they're crap. Just gotta get a new gauge. And then I put the Mad Dog stock on to give the gun more rigidity. And I actually had Doug actually made me at Mad Dog Stocks, made me a custom stock to fit this bottle. It's not one that you can just buy. You have to get the measurements to Doug, and I actually had to trim a little bit off this to make this bottle fit. And it didn't fit completely snugly, but it actually turned out really well because when I put the stock on and tighten everything down, the stock pushes up against the bottle, which helps eliminate a lot of the flex you get when you put your cheek down. Since I have so much pressure pushing up on the bottle, this little bit of pressure on my cheek does not change the POI shifts at all from the cheek pressure, which is great. And what else? I'm going to pause here and regroup my thoughts. Okay, and another thing, what worked into shot count and accuracy was lowering the gun down, putting the power down. For Coyote, we do not need a lot of power, and I was shooting for between 150 and 170 foot-pounds with this gun, and that brought my shot count to extraordinarily crazy, more than I expected. I get 7 to 9 really good regulated like shots. I'll show you the shot curve. I filled the gun up to the peak pressure, not too much. I filled it right at the peak so I could have a number of exactly the same shots. I'm going to show that footage and you can see what kind of shot string this gun is actually producing at 158 foot-pounds.
$74. $74. $74. $72.
That's 5. 6.
963. 964. 600.
7.
60.
I'll just do 8.
900.
There we
51.
go. All right, what do you think of that? That is not like a big bore shot string. I think the first 3 shots were 974, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th shot dropped down 2 feet per second. 5th shot was 5 or 7 feet per second, lower than the first 3. And then the 6th shot or 7th shot was down to about 14 foot per second spread, something like that, 15. So it's under 20. I can get, if I were to fill it up to that before the peak, fill a couple more PSI of pressure, I could easily have got 9 shots under 20 foot per second spread. But I've noticed if you fill a gun in the cold and you go into the heat, you could experience a valve lock. That's why I don't like to use that other side of the curve. I just sit on the peak of the curve and shoot down. All right, we'll spend the next quick little minute on projectiles. I knew from the beginning I was going to be shooting slugs out of this gun, so I went out and bought a few $100s worth of slugs and started testing. And I originally thought that I was going to be shooting 100 to 120 grain, but after shooting it a little while, I noticed that it's not pleasant to shoot. The shot count starts to eat up a lot of air once you get above 100 grain. You have to start thinking too much about where the fill pressure is, what shot you're on, how much is going to drop at that distance. I didn't want to do any of that, so I ended up going back out and buying a bunch of smaller grains between about 55, I think was the lowest, to 85, and I ended up falling on 75 grainers, AVS, dish, and cup tail. I would do both. They're both the same. And with this projectile, I just noticed the gun's so much easier to shoot. Shot count's much more consistent. It just feels like it's an air gun, not a center fire rifle. You have much less jump. Harmonics are much less of an issue. It just seemed like everything was better. And besides, I'm shooting 40-pound Coyote at the biggest, 60 at the absolute hugest, probably more like 30. I don't need a lot of power with this Texan. It's still twice as much power as any other 30 caliber pellet rifle. And the projectile has a much better BC. All right, so let's get into is this a gun, a very extreme precision gun? No, the trigger, it's not good, it's heavy, two-stage. It's just a hunting trigger. It's made to shoot with gloves and in the cold, and that's what it's there for, and that's exactly what it does. And believe me, I lost one Coyote because I had a 9-ounce trigger in the cold with gloves on, and the Coyote ran up to me. As soon as I went to touch the trigger to find it, it went off. Shot over its back. With this trigger, that is not going to happen. So this gun, every gun I have, I judge the accuracy. I make a note log, and I judge the same one, and it is slightly worse than all my small bores. My Matador, my Maverick, my Bobcat, at 50 and 100 yards. It doesn't hold extreme tight group, but it's not that what you're after. As long as you have a gun that doesn't have flyers and then shoots a 75 grain projectile with a .13 BC, which this projectile has, it seems so much more accurate than it really is at long range. And here I'll prove that on this day. This day was a month back, 3 weeks back maybe. I went out shooting at long range in the wind because I didn't know what it would be like in EBR, if it would be windy or not. So I went on a very windy day, as you can see here. Very windy day. I had wind flags. Look at how they were hollowing. One even blew down, and just started shooting targets. And here's the footage for that. Easier to shoot in the wind. Right now it's double digits wind, very gusty. some of the worst conditions I've ever shot in, and the Texan is actually making it kind of easy. So I'm gonna take a few shots from 100 to 200 yards and just smoke my targets and show everyone how awesome this Texan is in these conditions. So our first shot's 100 yards. Easy piece of cake. Next one is 114. I've been barely holding for wind on this target. Just a hair. I hit it every time. See the grass move? Next one is at 134. Should I dial this right? I've been dialing it wrong. And this one I have to hold a little bit more than that one, and I hit it every time. Even during wind gusts, like right now. I feel a lot of wind, you can hear that. Make sure my thing's in focus. Ooh, I think just over the top of it. Dial back a little bit. Just went over the top of it. There we go, hit it. The next one is at 173. And that one, I dial just a hair again. A hair more than my last target, and I should hit it. And this kind of wind is just crazy. I would never shoot in this kind of wind with a pellet gun. I would even just stay home and watch TV. With this Texan, I can do it. Alright, I'm going to hold actually, I'm going to 2.5. Hit it! And I still have at least 4 shots left. Here's 200 yards. Now this is the range that I shoot with the Texan all the time, 200, and it's really easy work. The steel is actually too big for it. I need smaller steel out there, even in this wind. So I'm just going to hold a hair. Actually, the wind died down. I'm just going to hold straight on. Almost straight on. Every time. That's how awesome this Texan is. In the wind, in all conditions, you can shoot. I wouldn't even be able to shoot past 70 yards with pellets before it gets too crazy. Texan. You can shoot in all weather. Oh, I think that one dropped low. I think I'm getting low. That was, I think, my 7th or 8th shot. I'll take one more. Yeah, still hitting target. I think that was my 8th or 9th shot. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. All right, as you can see, that video, this gun is the only gun I own that can shoot in double digits wind and not make me frustrated and angry. That gun, that day, was still hitting steel at 200 yards, which is still a Coyote's vitals. Rather than thinking about holding for feet with a pellet rifle at those ranges, I'm thinking about holding at this distance, which is 100 times more easy to deal with. It is something about aiming off a target and hoping that pellet will hit where you want, but your crosshair is not even on the target. This gun, crosshairs are still on the target, just slightly to one side or the other, even in that kind of wind. And that's where this Texan shines. This inline valve, this straight valve, brings a whole new realm of shooting in the wind. And that's what I enjoy about these Texans. That is what makes the Texan different than all the other guns. Inline valve, lower pressures, higher velocities, more power than the average air rifle. Alright, I suppose I can't say everything good. This gun does have some flaws. Like I mentioned earlier, the trigger, I wish that they could have an aftermarket trigger, clean that up a little bit for the people who want that extreme precision. Secondly, you have to keep an eye on the hammer spring adjustment. Every few shots you got to readjust it. I put a white little thing of paint where I wanted it. You always got to keep that into in the window so you can keep the consistent velocities. I wish there was a way to lock that in there. That would be better if they could do that. What else? I don't know why people keep going dovetail when everything should be Picatinny these days. Airforce, maybe you can make some Picatinny rails, so I have to buy this crap and retrofit it. Needs a better gauge, need more accurate gauge. An unregulated rifle, you really have to know where your fill pressure is to make the gun really accurate, so that will increase accuracy. It's cheap, 40 bucks more, put a good gauge on. What else? This moderator, I forgot to tell you guys about. I had some issues with every time I took this moderator off, the POI would shift from left to right, not up and down, usually from left to right. And then every time I put it together, these two screws, if you have one tighter than the other, it would veer the shot either left or right. So in order to combat that issue, I put lock washers, some springy lock washers underneath these hex screw nuts. And that gave the gun a little bit more spring, so it would always line up. After you screw them down, they'd always kind of line up in the same spot. So if you bumped it, it wouldn't be stuck one way or the other way. They would just kind of find the same spot with that spring. So these are all things I've noticed that can be fixed. And also I had to replace the valve. I'll show a quick video. I noticed I wasn't getting the accuracy, but right before EBR my gun was not showing the accuracy it once had, and I couldn't figure out why, and it wasn't until I degassed the gun and started checking the valve. I'll show you that picture now. The valve started to wiggle. May have been my fault. I was using an aftermarket wrench to wrench down the bottle and the valve on the spin lock system, and it was hard to get in and out, so I might have bent it. Anyway, I had to replace that. It was cheap. Airforce was really nice. They shipped it to me really quickly. No issues. Great customer service with Airforce. Other than that, I think that wraps up the review. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope this video will entice people to go out and buy an Airforce and start playing with it like it did me. Thanks for watching. Bye.